Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. As always, we'd invite you to join us over on Patreon, where every single video goes up on Patreon. Now, there are some Patreon exclusive videos, so what you would see is a 30-second primer of the video, a little preview, and then you'd be offered a chance to go ahead and become a Patreon for as little as basically less than $1 a month if you pay for a year in advance. But you could also just sign up to get notifications and watch all the videos over on Patreon. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. We have covered a lot of topics. If you are new to this channel, you might think, all we cover is World War III, or talking about some very, very different spirituality. But the reality is, we were kind of centered around earth changes for a lot of the time of Evolutionary and also EEARTS. And we've covered everything from Queen Califia, the island of California, which is really interesting. I mean, it's fascinating. Our history is not what it appears to be. When you look at this map. They show California as an island, really the equivalent of driving from Florida all the way up to Maine. It's one island, and you could go out at the top, you could go out at the bottom. This makes a lot of sense to me. As Cindy and I, we owned an acre of desert sand, and we did find giant fossilized teeth on it. We found also coral, fossilized clams, sponge, all sorts of stuff that if this was here, because this would run right through our property where it was, it would make all the sense in the world.
And it was really interesting after we had done that video on Queen Califia, not too long afterwards, I had gotten a dream, and this California, she's put a curse over California, the island of California, because of the invaders. She simply was not going to have it, and people in California are under a spell. Now, if you choose to believe that, it's what came, and I just thought it was curious that she did share that with me. And having people stay in California, despite, all the goings-ons and all the problems that are going on with California, people just stay and stay and stay. So that was kind of curious. That was a curious vision.
Yeah, very much so. And in fact, every map that has been put into existence has shown California, as far as I'm aware of. And I've tried to find ones that don't show it as an island, but they've all shown it as an island pre-1700. Pre-1700. That is really so fascinating, as you see a couple of them, and there's tons. They all show this. Pretty kind of similar. 1700, what happened then? Well, that was the Great Cascadian Earthquake, or what they call the Great Cascadian Earthquake, that we know was a 9.0 or better. And some have postulated, and it makes perfect sense to me, was it a collision caused by California, the island, merging with the mainland? It just seems kind of logical to me.
I think so. Me too. Yep.
It feels right. So many Native Americans speak of an inland sea, and this would fit the bill. And gosh, it just feels right. When you look at the fault lines, and this is showing everything in red's the fault lines. Where are the fault lines? Well, they are on the Ring of Fire. But when you look to this to me tells me that this was a major traumatic area. As you see, look at the fault lines. It's just incredible. And the impact, boom. Look at them ripple all the way into Utah and beyond. As you can see, this really feels like an impact to me. I think that is logical. It feels logical. And so, this is something that we had posted a long time ago. Was the 1700 Cascadian megaquake really the result of the island of California impacting North America itself? And why, when we look to quakes, like if we look to quake activity, you'll see that very often half or more of all the earthquakes on the planet are right in this area. So it kind of really, to me, and I'm not a geologist, which, may be a bad thing, maybe a good thing, because, again, I haven't been indoctrinated into the official programming, which I view as a good thing. To me, it says that this is one of the most recent traumatic areas that we have had on the planet. And, when you look, the other areas that we get a lot of issues with is over here. We still don't see the fault lines like we do over in California and up into Oregon and Washington and over into Nevada as well. I mean, Nevada is just loaded with fault lines. And actually, I really did feel very nervous my entire year and a half in Nevada. Very, very uncomfortable. I felt more comfortable when we got to New Mexico, honestly, like there was finally a little solid ground. So I do think that we have not been told the truth of, that great, great Cascadian megaquake in 1700. And this article is not old at all. October 20th, Cascadia earthquake could release deadly chemicals, endangering much of Multnomah County. Multnomah County. Yeah, deadly chemicals. So if you had a replay of that 9.0, which scientists predict could happen in the next 50 years, it could release deadly plumes of hazardous materials from industrial facilities. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the destruction that happened with the last one was just incredible. And, here we are told that basically Cascadia is due or maybe overdue. And same thing for the San Andreas. And coincidentally, kind of the New Madrid too. They all are sort of ticking time bombs in an era, in a time when we know that there is absolutely weather warfare and earthquake warfare going on with technology.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on, and I had the strangest dream where we were shaken, and I saw this house fall off of its foundation, and in that dream somehow I knew that everything had gone all at once, and that the people were trying to find ways home. There were no planes in the sky. People were not able to fly home, but they were taking risks and taking things like the Greyhound buses, trying to take them home to make their way across the country because there was so many things that were just broken and shattered.
Yes, and this is estimates right here from different counties of the amount of deaths that would occur if we had a replay of that 9.0 from tsunami. As you can see, it would not be a pretty picture. There's been multiple studies that have been done. We just recently had a quake right underneath San Francisco, second in 10 days. They're listing it as a 3.7. I had seen it as a 4.1. Yeah, okay. So they downgraded it. Again, it's a matter of time. But I do think that it's very, very close. And it's interesting, too, because if Cascadia goes, it feels very likely that you would have the San Andreas following suit because of the way the energy flows. And it's not just the San Andreas. As you can see, the faults right here. Sure, San Andreas is the big one, but there's so many of these other faults that would be impacted. And this reminds me of what I saw going back to 2019. In February of 2019, I had one kind of dream vision and then another one about a week, 10 days later. First one it was like I'm watching TV and all they're talking about is the damage to Seattle from a major earthquake. And I want to say I saw 8.3 listed on the screen. It could be, again, they would downgrade something to that point, even if it was more along the lines of a 9.0, or maybe this was a foreshock or an aftershock. But they were just talking about the massive damage that had been done because Cascadia had gone. And then about 7 to 10 days later, I had the same sort of dream vision where I'm watching TV and I'm watching helicopters in the air and camera crews, and they're showing Los Angeles, and it seemed like everything more oceanside was completely wiped out. It wasn't as bad on the eastward side, but they were making note of and telling people which celebrities that they could confirm were either dead or alive. It was just like watching a TV show. It was so real. And the reason why we even brought all this up is because of, you guys out there telling us, hey, I saw this, hey, I saw that. And so this was actually aired 1 year ago, almost exactly. And it's just talking about the new Madrid fault line escape routes, and this is a St. Louis channel. As you can see, the guy, you are standing on the new Madrid fault line. Do you know when it went, it rang church bells in Boston. It was felt all the way down to South Carolina into Florida, the entire East Coast. It's on the Craton. And the Craton is going to transfer that energy much farther than the West Coast quakes. So, again, if you're in Texas and Cascadia and the San Andreas go, you probably won't feel them yourself. You might be able to sense something's wrong because we all can, and that's strengthening in all of us right now. But yes, you will feel the new Madrid everywhere. This is a different scenario, and it does feel that they're going to go bing, boing, boom, just like dominoes going off.
Mm-hmm. That's what I got in my vision. It was going to be like everything all at once, and people were going to know it because it was that noticeable. And I did find this curious, that they're even they're highlighting New Madrid fault line escape routes. I think that's noteworthy, and people should probably know where those are at, because if there's one problem with really big cities is that you can't get out. Once something happens, and you are just absolutely trapped unless you know the back roads. And so that, I think that's important to note, and have a hard copy of a map in your car. The older the better, because a lot of times there's roads out there that they just mark off and they don't reapply them to, say, a GPS. But if you have an older map, you might be able to know exactly where all of these other little roads leading out are at.
Yeah, and again, where the New Madrid is, it's so close to the intersection of quite a few states. Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois. Again, it's close to all those, but absolutely we'll all feel that when that goes. And the other thing is the feeling that, and I've had this strong feeling going back to the visions that I had of people leaving Florida en masse, and again leaving these areas that are going to be attacked and invaded, is I do think that the initiation of the direct attack on the United States will start with something that looks like it could be earth change, a natural earth change, but will actually be something that's triggered by technology. So I wouldn't doubt that is the real go for the attack directly on the U.S. And, I just can't shake it. It just looks so obvious to me. It's felt so obvious since we started to analyze the three quakes, which make an aleph or an A in Hebrew, an X straight over in the New Madrid. And we've had 2 of the 3. The last part of this puzzle is April 8th, 2024. So, again, this is not far off. I do think it's likely that we will see sometime in April or in May all 3 of these going. It just feels like it. It really does feel like it. 2 of these, as you see, go right through Cascadia-Zone. Down here in Charleston, there is a big quake area. Charleston itself was hit by a larger than 7.0 that liquefied the ground. And of course, they intersect directly over the new Madrid. And then this one is also kind of running parallel to our southern border in many ways. And so it feels like what we just went through October 14th was kind of, in some ways, foreshadowing the migrant immigrant invasion that has happened, obviously. And they're just sitting waiting for the go sign. And who knows what that go sign is? It could be that it's when the fleet is taken out over in the Red Sea, over in the Mediterranean. Maybe that's when they activate these cells, and we have 5-6 months of chaos with massive all sorts of strikes on our infrastructure, water, food, energy, and then they trigger the quakes. And the guys have shown us, they gave Cindy back in early December of last year a vision in which she saw volcanoes going off. It felt like the Pacific Northwest. And she saw fighting going on. And it felt like it was in the same area. It felt very much like it was Russian, Chinese, maybe Iranian. Again, within our borders right now are so many military personnel from dozens of countries, but primarily the countries that are in opposition to NATO in the current conflict going on in both Ukraine and in Israel. So just a heads up, by the way, Nostradamus did talk about a great quake, and his timing on that was the sun 20 degrees into Taurus, so more like around May 10th. Which would make sense somewhere in April or May, because again, with these energies, they usually take a little time to settle in, and then you see it. And we certainly saw it when we were talking about September 23rd through 25th, the energies there, which have all these things are adding up. The energies are intensifying, and everything is going to a much more challenging stage. So again, have an earthquake plan, as Dutch Sense would say, have a WW3 plan, have a plan for pretty much everything. Again, work with your family, your friends, have contingency evacuation plans, especially if you're in one of these earthquake zones, or if you're really very close again to any of the coastal areas, which 2/3 of our population is by a coastal area.
Yes, definitely. And have backups to your backups.
Absolutely. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.